Good evening, everyone. Once again, we're returning to the game of Tylos. I am, of course, Shadow Wolf, the DM, and beginning tonight, we're going to do some introductions. So I will let Pig Destroyer go first and introduce himself and his character. Pig Destroyer?
Yes, I am Versing von Gallen. I am a noble, well, at least was a noble, of the now destroyed village of Alonzia. I am a warlock, level 4, a goo warlock. That's about it.
Thank you. And Blood, we'll let you go next.
Hiya, I'm Blood. I play a drow rogue named Varis, who is a level 5.
Payless.
Hi, I'm playing Payless Ironstasia, a paladin of Xanios, the goddess of judgment. I have a oath of devotion, playing a high elf, pretty basic elf, yeah.
And last but not least, Arn.
I am Teapot of Doom, and I play Arn Nilo. I'm a wild magic sorcerer level 4, and a slightly socially awkward hunter.
And unfortunately not joining us tonight is our newest member, Fiver, who is playing Philele, the human knight who is still working out her place in the world and attempting to figure out her reasons in Tylos. Giving a quick recap of last week's session, you guys found yourselves beginning in the cavern underneath the village of Alonzia, having traced your way through here following the trail of an individual named Javier. You had located this underground tunnel which led you to this cavern, and unfortunately once again walked into an ambush of your favorite little pygmy characters. Battling your way through the cavern, you found yourselves lost in pitch blackness as a hurried and somewhat distracted Varis quickly left the group in darkness, moving the magical lights that he carried with him ahead of the group itself. During this time, you met another individual, Philele, who seemed to be lost in the underground, not quite sure how she ended up there, but quickly rallied to your group's side. You, after felling the creatures, looked around the cavern and unfortunately found a injured, deceased, impaled, and not having a good time Versing von Gallen, who, by the time Payless approached, was cold to the world, his body no longer giving any signs of life, and essentially showing some very, very, very bad signs. Roughly pulling him off the stalagmite that he had fallen on, Payless picked the body up and carried it along as Varis took off ahead of the group once more, unfortunately leaving everyone else in pitch blackness and making them huddle around a single torch. Varis sped down a side tunnel that he had found, and being distracted, careless, or simply in a hurry, found himself falling into a pit where his neck was broken and he began to see the darkness enveloping around him. As he lay in the bottom of this pit, he unfortunately did pass into the other world. However, a amulet that he wore around his neck was a saving grace and managed to call his spirit back to his body, reviving him once more, where he came to life to find a large number of his party members standing on top of him in this small 5-foot by 5-foot hole. After some trouble, you guys managed to make your way out of the hole and took some time to rest up and heal the wounds as best as you could. Although nothing really interesting happened in your resting time, we did see Payless showing some remorse over the loss of Versing, as well as some serious mental, not quite breakdown, but mental stress on the rest of the group who huddled in this darkened area. At this point, you guys have awoken from your rest, Your wounds healed as best as you could. You did get the full benefits of the full rest, and around you right now is the darkness that is kind of pushing in from beyond the firelight that is essentially the torches pushing back at the darkness around you. So at this point, you guys have all awoken. The tunnel around you is silent. There is the way to the south that you had come from, and there is the tunnel leading further north. There is still that 5-foot hole in the black box. What would you like to do at this point?
Apparently nothing. We were down here in character. Were we down here chasing Javier with you?
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Varis, we're here to find Javier with you, aren't we?
Yes.
So, I guess we keep. I'd like to talk to him about our dead friend, as he's a spirit reaper. Is that the right term?
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping that he can help Versing in some way, and if not, then I'm just going to take out some rage on this guy.
Varis just nods.
Do you have any clues, Varis?
Varis just quickly looks around and said, "Nope."
Well, you chased him this far. What was the last thing you saw?
It seems like Varis just stays quiet and seems to be thinking about it.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm pretty sure the last thing the funny little charcoal elf there saw was probably the bottom of the fucking hole he fell in.
Is there can we see into the cavern at all? Further in?
The cavern that you came from?
No, the in the direction that we're heading, or that I suppose opposite of where we came in.
So best you can see right now is that the tunnel seems to kind of curve slightly, almost in a semicircle, heading further down, but with the darkness around you, other than very, very minor details, like there's a wall there, it's really hard to see things. For some of you, especially those of you with elven blood, or with that sort of ancestral history that gives you the dark vision, it's kind of confusing because normally you, in this sort of darkness, you would be able to see normally, but something seems to be keeping details. For whatever reason, spells and firelight seems to push back against this darkness, but it definitely doesn't feel natural in many senses. It's a darkness that seems almost oppressive in some ways.
Can you cast some lights, Varis?
Sure. And I'll cast Dancing Lights.
Alright. And seeing as I completely got rid of those last time, I will once again find me some light discs.
Is Varys still tied up?
Varis is still tied up. No one's untied him yet.
No, I'm good with that. Guy needs a leash.
Okay. I say that using these lights, we carefully make our way forward. Gamely, I would like you in the back, if you can, hold the rope as a leash on Varis.
I get to walk the puppy dog.
I, Arn and Falele, you're in the center, and I'm going to lead. And I will pick up Varys and throw him over my shield arm, or the shoulder of my shield arm.
I'm assuming you
So
meant
you sir-
versing.
Oh, you versing. Sorry. Yeah.
Alright. Varys, how are you going to space those lights as you guys make your way?
I guess in a line.
Okay, you do have control over them, just so you know, so you can move them at will. And as you begin focusing on moving those lights, you watch as Gamely walks up behind you, kind of tucking one of the axes into his belt. He picks up the rope and unties you from the rock itself, leaving part of it still tied around your midriff. With a slight smile, he kind of tugs on it a little bit and goes, "Right then, puppy dog, let's go."
I make eye contact with Varis and just shake my head.
I imagine like elf ears are kind of like movable, so their ears just like go backwards a bit.
As a half elf, do I know what that means?
I would assume you'd have some idea.
Did Varis just give me the elf version of the finger?
You know what?
No.
I'm actually... I'm gonna have you roll charisma on this one. For
Arn?
you, Arn. Yes. With your social experiences, you are not really connected with the subtle nuances of communication and working with other people. Seeing the ears pull back, the closest thing you can associate this with is a cat that you once saw, which, right before it lunged at you and attacked you, it pulled its ears back slightly. For you, this is very reminiscent, and there's a part of you that expects Varis to suddenly lunge forward at you, full attack.
I'm just gonna put Falele between me and Varis. Also, that was a very roll.
Alright. As you guys make your way through the tunnel,
I'm gonna use a javelin to try to kind of poke the ground ahead of me as I walk.
I'm gonna have you go ahead and make an investigation check while you do that, with advantage because you are using the javelin for it. You make your way through the cavern itself, and although at first you are kind of surprised that you don't come across anything, eventually you realize that the one area that gave way was probably, at least in your best guess, a fluke incident. It appeared more like the ground had simply, over time, worn away and become nothing. You don't get the feeling that this was a trap that was set by someone, especially considering the bottom did not hold any obvious signs of being a trap. But eventually, as you're making your way through the cavern area, you can see ahead of you what appears to be light suddenly shining very, very dimly in the distance.
I'll hold up my hand as if to stop everyone. I have no idea if they know what that means. And then I'm going to lay Versing's body down and carefully creep towards the light.
As you do so, are you doing so stealthily or just brazenly walking?
Yes, I would like to
Go ahead and
try
roll
stealth.
check.
Can we see this happening?
You absolutely can. As you guys are creeping towards this light, you notice Palis pulling his hand up, and for many of you it's a very common signal. It is something that you've seen before in your travels, if not from Palis himself, then from many others that you've encountered. He is obviously calling you to halt. Whether you choose to or not is entirely up to you, but after a pause, he kind of sort of, in a very slinking motion, but with a very loud thump 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 of his shield bouncing off his leg and chest plate, begins walking towards this light source that you can see. Palis.
I look at.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I look at Philalia and go, he's really good at this stuff.
Yeah, he's really good.
He's really good. You're new, but he's really good at this.
Okay. I don't believe you, but okay. Palis, as you approach this light source, about halfway through, you realize that you're probably not being super quiet or stealthy, especially considering the fact that you can hear the sounds of your shield echoing up and down the tunnel itself. But, you notice what appears to be almost like an exit to the tunnel. It's a very wide open hole, and you can see some sort of path that leads out of it. However, most of your vision is obscured just from the angle. It almost looks like the path goes into a sheer cliff face.
Okay, I'll head back towards the others. Okay, so seems to be where we are coming out of the tunnel on a cliff face. Gamely, you need to untie this. Oh, I think you should go first. You seem a bit more nimble than I am. And then each of you go, and I'll go last with versing.
Just throw me down there.
You don't want me to keep a leash on the sneaky little thing?
No, we can't afford to be tied together in case someone falls.
Well, I'd think that would be the best thing, because if one of us falls, at least somebody else could stop it.
Until they fall, and then the next one falls. It sounds smart to tie each other together, I know, but in my training, it's been proven story after story that it is not a good idea. But if you wish to tie each other together, and tie yourselves together, that's fine with me. I will not.
Go ahead and make a persuasion check. As you're saying this, you do notice that he seems to be a little bit apprehensive and kind of steps back, crosses his arms. But
solid 7.
With a moment's pause, you see his eyes suddenly kind of soften a little bit, and he nods. Aye, alright. I'll go check it out. Should I call out or come back or just kind of holler? What you want me to do once I'm there?
Just once you get, we're all going to follow pretty swiftly, I imagine. There's no reason to delay. unless someone else can think of a reason, just make sure that wherever the cliff leads, that we have room to all get into the whatever area is next.
I can go ahead and scout.
Are you sure? Gamely can take a hit a fair bit better than you.
Aye, not as squishy as you are, lovely lady.
I am squishy. I'm also magic. It's up to you guys. I can just kind of step in and out.
I'm fine with whatever. I'm gonna go last with bursting.
Do you want me to send a firebolt or something over there? You know I'll do like 1 point of damage.
My only concern with that is what if there's some sort of flammable thing out there and you turn us into a, well, smoking pile of ash?
There's another concern that there are creatures that can climb up and down the side of walls, and throwing a firebolt out there is, especially if it's dark, is going to only cause more attention to us.
I am not a creature of subtlety. It's up to you.
I've noticed.
Alright, I'll go take a look. You lots get yourselves organised and meet me up there, right?
Off you go.
And with a single moment's hesitation to see if anyone else is going to offer, he just kind of starts slinking away down the path. A few minutes
I give him a little push on the back as he goes past. It's a little shove.
Go ahead and make a strength check.
$16.
As you kind of place your hand on his back, he seems to stop for a moment as if thinking you're going to stop him from going forwards. And then suddenly you lean in with all of your force and shove him down the path. It takes a few stumbling steps before he finally rights himself. And you see him give you a single finger salute before continuing on down the tunnel.
That's it. Stay positive, Gamely. You'll be right.
You do hear something about, best as you can tell, ducking elves or something. It doesn't quite echo very well back to you.
Oblivious.
Alright, the rest of you watch as he kind of wanders out into the light, his two axes in hand. As he gets closer, he kind of slides up to the wall a little bit before slinking out and around the corner and into the light itself. A few minutes pass, and you don't see him return.
He probably just is sick of us.
One of you more sneaky ones want to try to go ahead or catch up?
I'm marginally sneaky. Varis is sneakiest.
Yes.
Do we trust Varis?
We have to now.
Varis, are you going to come back? Varis?
Jennifer's still gonna be there when we get there. Either way.
I'm not lying.
Varis, if we untie you, are you going to come back?
Yes.
Sideways glance at Payless.
We don't have much of a choice.
Alright, go and see if you can find game and come back.
I'll scout ahead and see if I can find Gamely.
Alright, I'm assuming you're gonna try and sneak your way up there?
Yeah.
Go ahead and make a stealth check.
14.
Slinking into the shadows where you feel most at home, you begin the relatively long walk, and keep in mind this is only about 250 meters or so it's not super far. But you make it about halfway before you see a figure step back into the darkness, and it takes you a moment to adjust your eyes before you see Gamely standing with both axes out to the side, in a somewhat ready position, and he seems to be looking up, as if he's staring at something above him.
Can I look up?
From your angle, you can't quite see out of the cavern entrance itself, but from the distance you're at, you can tell he's definitely not looking at something in the cavern, but rather something outside of it and above him.
Can I try and get a little bit closer and see what he's looking at?
Okay, as you begin walking forward, you get about 10-12 paces before you realize that his left hand has kind of very, very quickly, before your eyes can even catch it, it's shifted so that the four fingers are kind of pointed upwards as if telling you to halt.
I'll stop.
Okay, and as you come to a stop, you realize that he's still staring at whatever is out there, but from the tenseness of his body, he's definitely waiting for something to happen.
I guess I still can't see what he's looking at, or?
Still a little too far out.
Okay.
A few seconds pass and you see the fingers kind of twitch a little bit. The tips of them just kind of curling a little bit, and after a second they kind of twitch again.
Is that a normal signal I will imagine someone is doing?
Go ahead and make a wisdom check.
Not gonna be my best. That's a 20 apparently. No, I'm good with wisdom.
It's not a signal that you recognize. I mean, the closest thing that comes to mind is if it was facing the other way, it might be a beckon to come closer. But based on the situation, you have a feeling that he's trying to move as little as possible, and maybe it's an approach signal, but you're not 100% confident on that.
Okay. Is there light above us?
Best you can tell, the light is just coming from the cave entrance itself, which seems to be the natural light filtering into the tunnel.
Okay, I was about to say, can I put out my dancing lights and go try and get more stealthier?
Absolutely.
I'll quickly dissipate my dancing lights and try and get more stealthy and blend in and wait. Do you want me to roll again?
No, you haven't moved, so I'm assuming your stealth stays the same.
Yeah.
A couple of minutes pass, and for those of you who stayed behind, you do notice that Varis has stopped midway, and you can see a figure, although not perfectly clear, standing in the entrance to the cavern. Eventually, the figure, for you, Varis, you know who it is, begins to kind of slide sideways, and as he fully exits the cavern entrance itself, you watch as he suddenly bolts directly towards you, sliding to a stop in front of you. He pants for a second before... Right, so, there's something out there.
That does not sound good. Did you have a good look what it was, or?
Not really. It's standing on 2 feet. It seems to be like a log, like a fallen tree that's gotten legs and arms and stood up and started walking.
Okay.
I ain't seen any of this shit before I met you lot, I'll be honest. You lot have been a complete change to my life, and I don't really like it.
You're so welcome.
I heard that, you fucking half-elf.
I look completely sincere.
He kind of eyes you for a minute in the distance.
White eyes, just totally sincere.
I don't know where you found that one, but I don't trust her.
Is this... Payless, did you ever see any of the things that attacked your house?
Yeah. Yes, they look like the creatures that we faced outside of the keep, where the were creature was.
And does this sound like a similar kind of creature?
Is it made of sticks or twigs or vines?
No, it looks like a walking log. Like, tree fell over, grew some legs made out of logs, grew some arms made out of logs, stood up, began walking.
Have you ran into something like that before? That is more tree-like or log-like.
Nothing is coming to mind for you.
Okay.
Can I do a history check?
Sure.
$18, not bad.
Based on the history of the world and what limited knowledge you have in the histories of not only this continent but the others, you have no idea what he's talking about.
It's very on. Well, we have a choice, which is to go and forward and hope that this thing isn't hostile, or where we know things are hostile.
Well, with our experiences with plant creatures, I'm going to guess it's hostile.
Was there another tunnel or anything back this way?
Nothing that you saw.
Do you want to look for another way out, or do we just want to go ahead and see how much we die? You guys.
No, I know Varis wants to go out in the sunlight. Or at least so go in the same direction he was going before.
Payless?
Do I know anything? Wait, I think I already rolled about tree creatures back in when we were in the woods.
Based on your history, this is not sounding like anything that Palis has run across before.
Well, we can't just stay here underground.
Yeah. What? I'm sorry, Wolf. What's the terrain like? We're on the edge of a cliff face.
You actually have no idea. From your position earlier, it looked like a cliff face, but based on the fact that Gamely was looking upwards, it was a little confusing to you because from what you saw earlier, you were assuming that it was a cliff face that went down, and the direction he's looking is completely opposite what you were expecting.
Okay. What's everyone's vote?
Well, Gamley, can you tell us about the terrain? Does it open up or...
Well, once you get out past that there hole, you kind of have this winding trail that goes up this cliffside. Well, I'll call it a cliff, more like a hill, but after being underground, feels like a cliff. Very, very rocky. There's definitely some areas where we can hide behind on the way up. I think that's why the thing didn't see me. It's probably about 3/4 of the way up the hill. It's a good distance out.
So you think there's enough terrain to maybe hide us?
Oh, aye, easily.
Well, there you go. I say we go forward.
Let's do this.
Yeah, Varis, why don't you go first, see if you can sneak around and flank this thing.
Okay.
Just in case.
Alright, what position are you guys coming out of this there hole in the ground?
Is it on this map, or are we getting another map?
You'll be getting another map.
Well, I think Varis should go first, then maybe Gamely. And we'll see how that goes.
Palis, are you bringing up the rear with versing over your shoulder?
Yeah.
Alright, and then Arn, do you want to be behind or in front of Philele?
I'll go behind Philele. I'll stick with Palis, so he's got some ranged attacks.
Alright, as you guys make your way out of the cavern entrance, you see this rocky grass hill combination, which is a very winding path that leads up it. You don't see the creature in the distance. You're not quite sure exactly what Gamely was talking about. As far as you can tell, this hillside appears completely clear. You do notice that the path seems to lead up in this winding direction, and it's probably about 10-15 feet drop where you see the rock cliff walls on the map. Oh, no.
What can you say, Varis?
I don't know. No tree.
I don't understand. The fucking thing was right there.
I'm gonna sneakily make my way forward and keep an eye out on any walking trees or any danger, I guess.
We'll just follow along. I'm going to check behind us every now and again.
I'm gonna have the two of you do perception checks.
Is it sunny?
no!
It is sunny.
That's an 8.
It's a 4 from Arn, as usual.
Alright. Varis, as you're making your
Do
way...
you...
Go ahead, Palis.
I was gonna say, do you see anything? Are we safe?
Arn, it looks completely safe. There is nothing following you. In fact, Palis's voice shocks you because you forgot he was behind you.
Not only that, I'm like, I've forgotten how eyes work.
Varys, as you're making your way along, the sun is extremely painful, especially after having come out of such a dark cavern. There's a few points where you actually find yourself almost walking into the wall face as you go along, and you can hear some snickering from Gamely behind you. You still don't see any creatures on the path, though, and as you head along, it's kind of starting to worry you a little bit.
Quiet. Too quiet.
Hey, let's catch up.
I'm just slowly hugging the walls, the rock walls, and making my way up.
As you do so, Varys, go ahead and give me a dexterity saving throw.
Ah, shit. 19.
As you're walking along, you hear a sudden crumbling sound, and you look up into your left and you see a large chunk of the wall suddenly come flying down towards you. However, with the lightning fast reflexes that have saved you in the past, you manage to dodge out of the way as this giant piece of slate rock slams into the ground and shatters in every direction. Looking around, you suddenly realize that much of the wall face is crumbling or falling apart in other ways, and taking a closer inspection, you realize this is probably not the safest path you've ever been on.
Nope.
You do see before you two paths. One leads left, one leads right.
Can I see anything down these two paths that I could make a choice off of?
Go ahead and make a perception check.
Sound? Eyes? I don't know.
Perception check with disadvantage.
12.
At first, there's nothing that really stands out to you on the path. Especially in the sunlight, it's very, very hard to really see anything, but squinting your eyes and focusing a little bit more, you suddenly realize that a set of footprints leads along to your right. A set of footprints very identical to your own.
I got a sight.
Varys, as you're walking along, I want you to go ahead and make another perception check for me.
Disadvantage?
Yes.
Uh, 10.
Okay. Carry on.
What happens when we have a drow leading a pack of people in the sunlight?
Yeah, we might want to put Philaly.
Is there two paths again, or is this the one to the left just a dead end?
It does appear to be two paths. As far as you can tell, there's one that stretches to the left, and there is one that goes right and continues upwards.
Do I still see the footprints?
Go ahead and make an investigation check.
15?
They're very faint, and with the strong sunlight at first they're hard to see, but you notice that the footprints begin heading to the left, And then suddenly they're backtracking over top of the prints already made, and you can see the freshest set seem to head right.
Then I'll go right.
As you come around the corner, you can hear, almost in your mind, a voice. Come to me.
Varys' ears are just gonna do that little back tilt again and continue forward again. Cautiously this time.
Yes. Closer.
Can we all
Do we all hear that?
Yes, you are all hearing this.
Bear, stop.
What is that? I feel like going closer to a voice like that is not a good idea.
I'm gonna put Bear versing down over here. Yeah, up against the wall. And then I'm gonna try to get around everyone.
Okay, the path's wide enough that you can slip by. It's about a 4.5 foot wide path.
Okay.
I'm gonna hang here near Verse.
Gamely, Paleli, there's no telling what's ahead of us. I think the two of you should stay on my flank. Varis, is there any possibility that you could get up the rock face?
I'm not sure.
Go ahead and make a investigation check on that, Varis.
16?
It would be difficult, but with the crumbling of the rock face, although you worry about the rock face giving way, you do notice that there are a number of spots where nimble fingers and feet could find a holding. But at the same time, you are somewhat concerned about how well you would be able to move and just the all-round difficulty of maintaining such a position.
I could possibly get up there, but I think it would be a little bit hard to maintain that or climb it.
Okay. That's fair.
But not preferred.
Okay. What do we do? I think we should, give me a chance to engage whatever this is first. So give me 50, 60 feet in between me and the two of you as I address Falele and Gamely. And then Varys, Arn, follow up about 30 feet behind them.
What do you want to do with versing?
Just leave him there for now. If we live, we can come back and get him.
Oi, leave the dead weight behind, makes sense. Palis, as you slowly make your way forward, you see, standing in the middle of the path, this almost log-like looking creature. It's only maybe half your height. It's not huge. Very, very thick in width, however. But it seems to be standing there almost waiting for you.
What are you?
I am one who has waited.
Waited for what?
I have waited for the one who has fallen.
The quick question: does this voice sound familiar?
Not to any of you.
When
Okay.
he says fallen, does he mean dead?
You have no idea.
When you say fallen, do you mean dead?
What she said.
Bring forth ye who I have awaited.
Name this person.
What is a name to one of mine?
Who are you?
I am one who watches. One who has seen the fall, seen the rise. I am the one who keeps. Bring forth the fallen.
Right. Gamely. I think you should go back and get Verson and bring him up here.
You want to give the dead weight to the tree thing?
I think.
Right.
Can I make an insight check on this entity?
This tree.
Go ahead and make an insight check at disadvantage because you're staring at a walking log, which, surprisingly, seems to speak not only out loud but in your mind as well. It's almost like the voice echoes at the same time.
Can I give it a try?
At the current time, Palus is really the only one close enough to really get any detailed read off this creature. And Palus, you're seeing a standing log that, other than a voice coming out of it, you would swear is not moving.
Do you know a Jennifer?
There's almost slaps his face.
Bring
Almost.
forth the fallen.
Yeah, we're getting him. Yeah, let's get versing. He said he worships some kind of watcher. If this thing's watching, then maybe it's the watcher.
What's the worst that could happen at this point?
You
Yeah,
watch.
really.
You watch as
Guy's
Gamely
dead.
kind of shrugs for a moment and then
Like,
begins walking back and picks up versing. And Varis and Arn, as he goes wandering past you, you hear some muttering. Right, this fucking group. Trust anything. Fucking tree. Giving a dead man to a tree. What kind of bullshit is this?
I'm gonna just give Gamely another little shot.
Go ahead and make a dexterity check.
$19.
He almost manages to dodge out of the way, but you give him a little shove forward as he goes. And you hear some more muttering, but eventually he heads forward and drops the body a number of feet away from the creature itself before hastily backing up away from it. Back. Leave it to me.
I'm not leaving it alone with you. Do you know who I am and what this is? And I'll hold up my amulet of Xania.
Follower of justice, I have seen your actions.
I have seen your soul. Long have you lived under my sight. I have no quarrel with you. Let me return my fallen.
He will not leave my sight. If you have watched me for this long, you know I will not back down on this. It is my oath. It is my duty to protect those, and I have failed him, and I will not fail him again.
If you wish not to fail him, allow me to return him. But I require space, unless you so choose your soul as sacrifice for this.
I'm going to ready Witch Bolt, but really obviously.
You're saying in exchange me for him?
If that is your choice.
I look back at the others and I kind of smile and say, okay. I turn back to him.
Arn, I'm gonna have you go ahead and roll a d20 for me.
$11.
You begin calling upon your arcane power, and for a moment you watch as the spell manifests in your hands, the bolt of energy sitting there momentarily before suddenly, almost in an exaggerated method, it begins to pull out piece by piece away from you until there is a stream of energy connecting between you and the tree figure. And for a moment it appears as if you two are literally physically connected by the magic between you before suddenly, with a snapping sound, the arcane energy disappears from your hands and you feel your own magical essence begin to snap away from you. For a moment you have a fear that your energy and this connection to the magical force of the world will leave your body before, with another snap, it seems to return to you. The spell itself gone, but your magical essence still intact. With a slight shift, Palus, you watch as the creature takes 2 steps forward and, raising its trunk-like arms, it connects one to you, and lengthening its left, it connects it to the body of Versing on the ground.
This shall be a test. Your strength in this world. We shall see.
Palus, I'm gonna have you go ahead and make a Constitution save. Those of you around you watch as there is a sudden rigidness in Palus's body, and for a moment he seems to tense up like he's fighting something, when all of a sudden a scream erupts from his mouth. One of immense pain, you watch as his body curls backwards, arms out to the side, his head falling back as far as his body will allow it, the scream just erupting from his mouth and almost echoing in the area around it. Palus, for you, this is the most painful thing that you have ever felt, as you suddenly feel your body just erupt in flames of energy. Go ahead and make another Constitution save. As the being seems to be drawing the energy out of Palus's body, you watch as, once tense and standing, all of a sudden he goes limp, collapsing to the ground. The arm of the tree-like being moving with him, lengthening as need be, but not disconnecting, and suddenly Palus is laying on the ground, unmoving, the screaming cut off immediately. You do, however, notice that Versing's body has begun to twitch. Palis, go ahead and make another Constitution save.
Dude, this is getting worse.
Suddenly, Palis' body begins to convulse and shake on the ground.
No. You have failed. Your connection too weak. Unprotected. So be it.
Versing, your eyes snap open and you see this tree-like figure standing before you. Beside you is Palis' body convulsing and shaking on the ground. You're conscious with 1 HP. Palis, go ahead and make your first death save.
You said for me, right?
Yes, I did. Mark off. Wow, that is amazing. All right. All of a sudden, as the convulsing body of Palis stops moving and his eyes snap open, the tree seems to disengage from both Versing and Palis, taking a step back, and just from the way it moves, you can tell that there is shock.
What is this? One so weak at first. How is it that you resist?
Palis, you are suddenly awake with 1 HP, and you can see beside you, still on the ground, Versing, who is alive but unmoving, his eyes open, looking weakly around. He seems extremely worn, but the hole in his body is gone, and you can see that life is once more in him.
I reach out with one hand and I grasp my amulet with another, and I cast 20 points of lay on hands on Versing.
Versing, there is a sudden warmth that spreads through your entire body, which, compared to the cold that you just came from, feels immaculate. You are healed 20 points as you see Palis on the ground before you. Most of the party, including a new individual who you recognize from a distance but have not seen up close, and this tree structure before you, which seems to be hovering over top of you. You do notice that its attention seems on you and Palis.
Alright, I'm gonna look around real confused. And, fuck. Just say that. Just fuck. What happened?
One
So-
who has fallen has risen. You, protector of the land, I have charged you. Destroy that which stands in our way. Return glory to the land. Hold your family's promise, long given. This is the command you have been given. This is the promise you have taken.
Would I know exactly at this point what this creature is?
This is a voice that you recognize from the entirety of your life. One that has followed your family around for many generations. It's one that you're extremely familiar with, and as you stare at it, there is a sudden connection that you feel between it that's, for the last couple of days, has been weak or missing.
I will immediately drop to my knees and bow and say, "Yes, Lord."
What is going on?
You,
I'm in the back here freaking out a little bit.
You have taken the
There's
path.
slowly taking out his bow and arrow.
You walk the path that has been laid before you. You shall right what is wrong.
And it'll lay a hand on you, versing, and suddenly a emptiness within you is filled with essence that up until now you hadn't realized was missing entirely. You can feel your magical powers returning to your body in full strength, and for a moment it almost overwhelms you. And then the creature will turn to you, Arn.
Oh shit.
I have seen your future. On the balance you stand, bringer of destruction or of change. Which path will you take? Will you destroy that which stands? Will you bring an end to the world? Or will you instead unite it, as is destiny foretold? We shall see.
And without another word, it'll turn and simply walk away off the edge of the cliff, and before your eyes simply disappear from sight.
What?
I'm immediately going to tend to Palus. Can I help him in any way?
Other than looking extremely weak and as if he has not rested in the last 7 years, he's alive, he's well, there's no visible wounds. You're really not sure what you could do for him. Whatever seems to be afflicting him, it's not a physical anything, it's almost like his soul was ripped from his body in a essence. For you, Palus, that is what it feels like. It feels like your soul was torn from your body and ripped to shreds before being returned. Standing off to the side, Gamely will kind of look around and go, "The fuck is wrong with all you people?"
Got nothing. I'm just gonna give Payless a and a slap.
No, it's okay. It's okay. No! Yeah. You need to do push-ups. I'm gonna push myself up. Look, everyone. Alright. Now we find Jennifer.
What? Do you need a minute?
I'm fine.
I'm gonna help him up and just tend to him as best I can.
Yeah, we'll give him some rations and a neck rub and a cup.
Really,
Yeah,
I'm okay.
No, you need to rest. We need to rest for a bit.
That worked out perfectly. Let's
Oh
just
my god! Arn slaps you again.
Look, we'll be alright. We're all here together. Versing's back. I had absolute faith that this would work.
Actually, I've got a question on that. How is the dead man walking again? The tree touched you, the tree touched him, and the fuck?
The answer is above your understanding.
Yeah, I got that much, but a little bit of explanation would help, because right now, confused as fuck.
I am gonna cast Cure Wounds on myself.
Yeah, I think you should. Versing, what was that?
Okay, so I'm gonna turn around and address the group and say, that was my master. That is the guardian of this area, simply known to my people as the Watcher.
He seemed to know about more than just this area.
He is a being of ancientness. He knows many things.
Well, clearly I'm not going to destroy anything because most of my firebolts don't work. So he's mistaken.
I mean, she's got that right.
We ready to go find Jennifer?
Yeah, let's go find Jennifer.
I'm just shaking my head.
I'm going to cast Mage Armor on myself.
Alright. Are you guys heading on forward? Okay.
Gamely, Pilele, if you'll take the lead.
Yeah, you don't look like you can really lead anything, so, why don't you just step back over there and, don't die.
I'm going
I've had
to,
worse.
I'm going to prop Palis up, around my shoulders. One of his arms around my shoulders to kind of prop him up and say, let's go, big guy.
Varis is right behind Gamely and Bailey.
Alright, as you guys come over the top of the hill, you can see that there is kind of another little tiny downhill that heads into a forest that spreads as far as the eye can see. In the distance, you do notice that there is a large area where there's almost more dense forest. It's like the trees kind of bend in towards one another. And you can see a single tree that stands above the rest, while the rest of the forest is the typical darkwood forest of the rainforests. Trees that are broad-leafed redwood trees that are almost a dark blood red in color. There is one that stands probably twice the height of the others. Its leaves, instead of being green as the others are an orange in color. And the trunk itself is a much lighter red than the others.
Do I see this?
Every single one of you is seeing this.
How
Alright,
far
I
away is
point-
I'm sorry. I was just wondering how far away.
Best as you can tell, probably a day's walk, give or take.
Oh, okay. Cool. Okay.
No more
All
fancy
right.
trees.
Yeah. I point to that and address the party and say, that is what we must destroy. That is the center of this evil.
The tree.
The tree.
For an elf, I'm really beginning to hate trees.
Alright. Well, we've got fire and blades. Let's get to it.
Alright, you guys begin down the pathway, and at first it just kind of is this very, very wide pathway that leads through the trees. Kind of a dense forest, but there's probably about 4.5, 5 feet between each tree. You can tell in the distance it's going to begin narrowing a little bit and become denser and denser. Thankfully for Varis at this point, the foliage is dark enough that it's kind of blocking out most of the sunlight, so it's not killing your eyes anymore. However, after about half a day's walk, you begin to notice that there's some bodies along the path. At first you notice a human body, well decayed, probably been there quite a while. And as you guys head further and further in, you start to notice pairs, groups, not all together. It's probably a few hours in between each set of bodies that you notice. But it appears as if someone has walked this path before, and none seem to have made it back out.
Can we see their injuries?
Based on the decomposition of the bodies, there's little more than skeleton left. What the little flesh you can see, maybe some cut marks, a few of them that look like the bones were broken, the body is completely shattered. It's a mixture of blunt force trauma, and in a few places you can see claw marks or lacerations. Nothing really leading you to any one type of death.
I'll use Divine Sense to see if there's any undead, fiend, or celestial within 60 feet.
Alright, and as you close your eyes and focus on that, there is a moment of confusion when your Divine Sense reaches out and immediately responds to you. And as you look, you see Versing himself covered in an almost shimmer-like aura around his body.
That's bad, right?
Can I tell which it is?
Based on the darkness of the aura, you figure it's undead, but there's something that seems off about it at the same time. It's not the typical undead aura. It's more of... there's that feel of death around it and that return from death, but it's not the typical cursed undead that you would see on something like a zombie or something risen in that sense.
Maybe something more desiccated or desecrated.
It definitely seems, it definitely seems like a soul returned to the body in a very violent, ripped way, but it's not something that normally carries that evil aura. It's almost like there was just trauma to the soul as it returned, and you figure that's why it's giving off the undead aura, is because it was so traumatically returned, but it's not corrupted in any sense.
Okay. The body doesn't radiate anything, right? The beaten one.
Nothing that you can see, no.
Like, okay. I'll turn back. Yep. Okay. Let's keep going. Unless someone wants to search this creature.
Sure.
Actually, yeah. I have a question about Xanios. Is there some kind of burial rites or anything like that?
Xanios herself doesn't have any, but being of a religious background, you would have a general knowledge of burial rites, not to the depth of the Spirit Reapers, but it's not uncommon for other religious entities to... I almost want to say would have cross-training of a sense, but you would know the very basics of bury the body, speak a couple of words over it, give a call to Kriya to collect the soul, sort of thing.
Okay, I'll go through that as Arn searches them.
Arn, go ahead and make an investigation check. Giving a quick kind of look over, you don't find anything of value, Arn. There are some heavily rusted weapons nearby, but picking them up, they kind of begin to fall apart, and you figure that they're not really going to be useful for anything, not even material. Anything clothing-wise or a more natural leather-like material seems to have rotted away. Meanwhile, Palus goes about burying the bodies that you find, speaking some words over them as much as he can. Obviously nothing personal, but doing what he can to attempt to ensure the souls find their way into the afterlife.
First thing, do you know where we are?
Do I?
You know you're in a rainforest.
Can I do like a nature check to see if or survival or something, to see if I recognize the area?
For this one, I'm going to have you give me a perception and wisdom check.
$14 perception, 9 wisdom.
Looking around best as you can tell, based off of the broadleaf redwood trees that make up the dark wood of the Empire, you figure you're still on the continent of Varis. You don't know exactly where. Best as you can tell, the landscape seems similar to most of the Empire, but that's not really saying much. You have seen borders of the Kieshi Empire, for instance, have very similar landscape, although they tend to be a lot denser, a lot taller trees. So you figure you're still somewhere in the Empire, but it's not anywhere you've been before, and not anywhere you recognize.
Okay, I turn to Arn and say, I have no clue where we are.
Excellent, that's mostly how I operate, so let's just carry on. Palus, are you going to bury everybody we come across?
If we have time.
Let's carry on.
Once we back, I've got a whole city to bury when we get back to the one.
Alright, as you guys push on, how long do you want to continue heading forward?
We're heading for the tree, right?
You are, at this point you've covered half a day. Best as you could tell based off your last vantage point, it was probably a day to that denser area that surrounds the tree. And depending on how difficult it is to move through that area, you figure it could be anywhere from half a day or a little bit more to get to the tree itself.
Have we seen any wildlife?
Mostly small critters, nothing bigger than a badger that you happen to come across.
Palus, do you need a rest?
I wouldn't say no to one at this point.
Let's camp.
Yeah, I'm done with camping.
Would you guys like to head off the trail to camp or stay on the trail?
I think we'll just head slightly off the trail.
Alright, it's about 5-10 feet from the trail itself where you find a relatively large opening, enough where each of you could lay out and rest somewhat comfortably. As you settle in, what would you like to do?
We need to do watches, We need to take watch.
I'll take first watch. You need to rest.
Yeah, I'll take second watch.
I guess I'll do third.
Well, I can do third.
Okay,
I
guess
mean,
I'll do that.
are we taking a full rest?
Yeah. What time is it, Wolf?
Best as you can tell through the foliage, it's probably early evening, maybe an hour or two before the regular supper time.
Okay, yeah, that'll work. That'll give us some travel time in the dark, which will help Varis, right, in the early morning.
Sure.
Gamely and Philele will offer to take fourth watch.
Oh yeah, together, hey? Mm.
They both just kind of stare at you for a moment.
And
It's
give them a
okay,
genuine
you two.
smile.
It's only natural.
Charisma
Right. Alright, you guys make your camp. Kind of resting out as best you can. I'm assuming you guys are eating a little bit before bedding down for the early evening nap time.
Yep.
Arn, go ahead and roll a d20 for me.
Here we go. It's an 8.
About 45 minutes into your watch, you notice that everyone has relatively peacefully entered their transes and sleeping patterns. You notice a butterfly flying across the pathway, and it is a gorgeous butterfly. And all of a sudden, you feel the desire to follow it.
Pretty.
Go ahead and make a survival check for me.
It's a 2.
It's probably an hour later that you suddenly notice that you are somewhere deep within the woods itself, nowhere near the camp, and you can't remember how you got here.
This is bad. Hello? Payless? Varis? I take it it's dark?
It's dark-ish. The sun hasn't fully set, but it's with the tree coverage. It's a lot darker than it was when you first set off. I believe you have dark vision.
I do.
So for you, it's that dimness where you can see as if there's some sort of dim light. Not enough to impede your vision anyway, and you can see normally, but you're not seeing how to get back to camp.
Okay, I'm so good at woodcraft. I'm just gonna look around and see if I can tell which way I came with footprints or broken twigs or anything.
Go ahead and make a survival check.
15.
It takes you the better part of 10 minutes before you suddenly see in the dirt what appears to be footprints. At first you're concerned because they're definitely pointing the wrong direction until it suddenly clicks in your mind that that's probably the direction you came from.
Yeah. I'm gonna go that way.
Okay. Go ahead and make another survival check for me.
8.
Alright. About just under an hour later, you stumble back into the camp, And as you do so, you accidentally trip over Palus as you come somewhat stumbling into his sleeping area. There's a moment of chaos as you kind of trip and fall over him before he bolts upright, awake now.
Hey, what?
Sorry. We need to watch in pairs. I just wandered off for like an hour after chasing a...
Okay.
There is something
Okay. Okay.
there's something very hinky going on.
Alright. Who was up next on what?
Who was up next?
I think it was Lord Von Galen. But were you doing it in pairs? How much is left of your watch, or this watch?
Can I tell that one?
Can I look up at the sky?
Palus, go ahead and make an intelligence check, and Arn, I'm gonna have you make a wisdom check.
Seven.
Nine.
Arn, you figure you wandered the forest for no more than an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. But Palus, looking at the sky and the way that the sun's moved and completely disappeared at this point, you can tell that she was actually over her watch time and that 5 hours have elapsed.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think it's time, but, yeah, you go and rest, I'll stay up with, Lord Von Galen.
Okay.
And I'll, like, gently wake up first thing.
Alright, have I healed any? Since I was asleep for 5 hours?
You have healed entirely.
Oh, what about me?
As well, you would have gotten your full rest worth of healing.
Cool. Alright, I'm going to, let's see, it's been 5 hours, so I'm going to cast Mage Armor on myself and, summon my, my Great Sword.
Which springs into your hands with full ease, the blade once again feeling proper.
That's good. That's good shit. Alright, yeah, I'm gonna prop up and be all watchful.
Yeah, Lord Von Galen, there was an issue with, Arn. While she was on watch, she said there was something kinky in the area. And that she proposed that we keep watch in pairs. So I am going to keep you company.
Alright, sounds good. Thank you.
I will have both of you give me a perception check.
Seven.
$18.
For you, Versing, it is pitch black in this area. You notice about 15 minutes in that you suddenly are finding yourself, your vision drawn back to the fire because it's the only thing that you can really see properly, that and the people sleeping around it. For you, Palus, however, especially with the dark vision that comes so naturally to you, you realize that there is a two-legged figure standing at the edge of the firelight. Very long jaw on it with numerous sharp teeth, about a It's probably about 6.5 feet from tip of the snout to the tip of the tail. It is standing on two legs with two arms that are much shorter than you would expect for something of this size. It is staring at you with yellow eyes, and it is entirely focused on you.
I will stand up slowly and draw my sword and say, Lord Von Galen, there's something here.
I'm gonna look up and can I do an investigation now to see if I can see it or not, or do I just see it?
Go ahead and make another perception check.
How tall is the creature?
It's about as tall as you.
18.
Surprisingly, you don't see anything.
I'm
I
going
don't
to...
see anything.
Is there like a stick in the fire I can grab? Not like putting my hand in the fire, but you know, enough sticking out of the campfire to grab that end of it.
Are you looking specifically for one on fire, or just a stick in general?
No, one on fire.
You figure there's probably one or two that you could grab without issue. So noisy.
Yeah, I'm gonna grab one and say, everyone up! And throw it at the creature.
Alright, the rest of you are awoken to the voice of Palis calling out, and as you twitch your eyes open, you see this stick on fire go flying into the woods to land at the edge of the camp.
Do we see anything?
Not a damn thing.
I'm gonna put my hand on Palis' shoulder and just say, there's nothing there, man.
Do I still see it?
You still see it, and it's standing there staring at you. It hasn't moved at all, even though the stick landed at its feet.
There's definitely something there.
There's something.
I will put on my shield and cautiously move towards it.
I'm gonna ready firebolt, even though I don't see anything.
Okay, and Palis, as you edge closer and closer, this thing has not moved, and eventually you are standing almost nose to nose with it. It still seems to be staring at the spot that you were once standing.
Reveal yourself.
Silence reigns over the camp.
I try it in Sylvan.
Still nothing.
I poke it with the end of the sword.
Without any sort of resistance, your sword goes straight through the snout, and you can see where the blade pokes out the other side. But there doesn't seem to be any entry or exit wounds on this thing.
None of you see this?
No.
For the rest of you, you are seeing Palis, who has yelled out twice to the woods, once in a language you understand, once in a language you don't. And he's now standing there with his sword extended upwards.
There's something very strange about this forest.
Yeah. I use Divine Sense again.
You once again reach out with the sense, and this time the same aura, except weaker, seems to return for versing himself, but other than that, you don't sense anything.
I'm gonna do an Arcana check, please.
Go ahead and roll Arcana.
18.
You have this overwhelming sense of magic in the vicinity. both where you're standing, where Versing's standing, and a very, very weaker sense coming from Varis. There's definitely magic here.
There's definitely magic here, guys. Look,
I
let's
send out some dancing lights. At least light up.
No. Well, maybe. I don't know. But I'm going to take a full-on attack swing through this creature.
I'm sending out dancing lights.
As the lights pop up and cover the entire area in this glowing, I believe you said blue or purple?
We're gonna be green.
Green? Okay, this green glow that emits at a 20-foot radius across a relatively lined area of the edge of camp. Palus swings out with his sword, and for the rest of you, you essentially see Palus swiping at air without any resistance. But Palus, you, in a little bit of confusion, feel your sword go straight through with no resistance. But the creature before you does not seem to have been harmed in any way.
just come and sit down, Palus. We'll get some more rest, and then we'll.
I grudgingly walk away from the creature. Look over my shoulder. Walk away. Look over my shoulder. Walk away.
It doesn't seem to move at all. It's standing there stationary as you first saw it.
Does anyone else need rest? Have I had enough rest to?
At this point, you guys have had the full 8-hour rest period. You've all regained your health, hit dice, half hit dice, spells, anything else that you may have lost.
Okay.
Varis, I'm going to have you make a wisdom save.
Oh boy. 17?
As Palus is making his way back across camp, you hear a sudden whisper on the air. A voice that you are very familiar with, a male voice that you have not heard in a few years, but one that you know will never, ever leave your memory. It whispers very softly, "Come to me. Find me."
He is going to react to that and get up and try and see if he can find the direction where that voice came from.
You are unable to pinpoint the direction of the voice, but you do realize that it is coming from within your head itself. And even though the voice is very familiar, there's something that feels off about it, as if it's not who you expect it to be, but an imitation.
Okay.
What's going on, Varis?
There's is gonna just tug at his hair and yell into this forest, "Stop being him." Try and yell back at the voice.
Okay, you guys watch as Varis begins yelling into the forest. Nothing answering him.
Can I?
Surprisingly, we're pretty calm about that. This is not the weirdest thing we've done.
I'm going to, or can I make any kind of I don't even know what this is. Stumping a DM. Can I make some kind of check to know if there what kind of magic is happening right now, or if it's a magic? Like the whole place is magical, it seems, but I don't even know what I'm trying to say properly. Like,
I'm going to go ahead and have you make an Arcana check for me. Although you are a lot more versed in the divine essence of magic, that which is given to you through your god, and your experience with the actual arcane focus, that of the wizards, the sorcerers, and such of the world, is more limited. You do recognize some spells that are essentially designed to toy with the mind. Those spells which manipulate that which you see, you hear, you feel, even the parts of your mind that essentially understand the passage of time and what is going on around them. This is definitely that sort of magic. It is a lot of illusion going on, that which is designed to mess with your mind's perception of the world. However, you've never seen it on this grand of a scale, and you've never seen it focused on a single individual and not a whole group, especially that which affects the visual focus in the way that you just saw for yourself. Normally that would be something that everyone would see. You have a feeling that this is something specifically tied to the forest, whether it's a self-defense mechanism or whether it is this tree itself targeting you. You have no idea. Best as you can tell, it is some arcane magic that is acting out against you in one way or another.
okay, I'm going to poke my sword at a tree.
You stab a tree.
It's real though?
It is 100% real, and as you stab the tree, I'm gonna have you go ahead and make a strength check.
So Varis is yelling at the forest, and Palos is hacking at tree.
I'm poking a tree.
Not well either.
You stab the tip of the blade in, not too deeply because you don't want to harm the trees. And you feel that it's real, and you pull the blade back out without any issue.
That is the best critical one ever. I'm gonna say to everyone, we need to ignore what we see and what we hear in here. I know it sounds counterproductive, but I believe that there's an illusion and enchantment magic within these woods, and if we fall for it, we may never get out.
I agree. So, see no evil, hear no evil, say no.
Does anyone have any sort of protection?
I mean, I've got my axes.
I meant spell-wise.
No,
Nay, I'm dead on that one,
can't
so.
help you. As an elf, albeit one that's grown up in a slum, can I touch tree and use Arcana to try and sense anything from the tree, like whether it can communicate or whether the forest itself is magical?
As an elf, no, but with your sorceress ancestry, you would be able to at least sense the magic if there were any. Talking to trees, though, it's a little bit beyond your capability.
Okay, but I'd at least be able to identify if the magic was coming from the trees.
Maybe?
Can I try that?
Go ahead and make an Arcana check.
Can I? Oh,
Hey.
no.
Alright, as you place your hand on the tree, there is a sudden burst of magic, and all of you watch as, attempting to sort of do something with the tree, the rest of you are not quite sure, you watch as Arn appears to draw whatever essence of the tree there was, and once a fine standing tree, all of a sudden it seems to crumble and ruin, the leaves withering and dying as she seems to draw some sort of magical essence out of it. Palis, you watch as the lizard-like creature suddenly disappears from your view.
I didn't mean to do that.
Is this some kind of fey magic? I was not, I've heard about it from my people, of course, but I've never studied it in school.
Well, I didn't mean to suck magic out of the tree, but I was able to suck magic out of the tree. I don't know what that means, though. Do I know what that means?
You are as baffled as everyone else.
Cool, but... Okay, so having sucked magic out of the tree, where does that magic...
You don't feel it anymore.
It's like the McDonald's of magic.
Essentially, yes.
Okay. This is a very bizarre forest. Shall we get moving?
What time is it?
Dark. That's about all you can tell.
Varis, go get your Jennifer.
But hold up. We're not going to stop and talk about the fact that the she-elf there just managed to suck the life force out of a tree.
Meh. Alan just shrugs.
Dude,
I
we've
just came
seen
back from
weirder.
the dead. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you do have a point there. This is kind of a... Well,
We
yeah. Alright.
look, Gamely, we understand if this is getting too weird for you, and you want to stop here. Understand that.
I'll be honest.
I'm going to give you big golden eyes.
I want to stay with you lot, minus her. Mostly because it seems that... Well... I have a better chance of surviving with you lot because somebody's watching over you somewhere, and I don't want to take my chance in this forest here alone.
That's wise.
I just rolled a 21 for big golden eyes.
He does not seem impressed.
He's not normal.
Alright, so are you guys heading off now?
No. I really? Like, this is... Do you remember what happened last time we walked around at night in the dark? Like, I died.
Who doesn't have night vision?
Philaly kind of
Me.
raises her hand.
Philaly and versing.
Alright, let's get a rope, tie those two together, and tie them to me.
Or we could just wait for night.
I think dark would be best for Varys to be able to scout for us.
Do we feel like lighting a torch?
I mean, the overgrowth is so thick down here, right? It's not in direct sunlight.
Let's just light a torch. Philaly and Versing can walk together with a torch. At the back, if you like.
I'd rather in the middle.
I think we should all stay as close as possible to each other, not necessarily in a line.
Sure. I'm just saying that, you know, if people can't see, they could create light. Carry with them.
Does anybody have any torches on them?
Well, I do, and I know Philaly does.
I have ceremonial candles.
Like, everything I had was on Beast, so that's all gone.
Yeah, well, Philaly has torches.
She'll pull a torch out, and after a moment's hesitation to see if anyone objects, she'll light it up.
And miraculously, there's light.
Yep, alright, let's do this.
Alright. Who is going to take the lead?
I guess Varis.
Alright. Varis, you can see the path seems to lead on through the forest. Oddly enough, although you get the feeling this is not a well-worn trail, it's not something that gets used often, there is a very clear path through here. Not quite marked, but just almost an opening in the trees that allows something of great size to pass between them. And as you guys begin heading out, you spend approximately 35-40 minutes walking down the path before, Varis, you notice some small shapes moving in the distance.
Can I see what they are? Or just shapes?
They're humanoid, about 2.5 feet tall, and they appear to blend in with the surrounding vegetation. You do also notice a recent body that seems to be laying on the ground. You can see a number of puncture wounds in the individual, some more vicious than the rest.
Do any of us see that?
Depending on how close you guys are, possibly.
I was trying to stay up with bears.
Yeah, if you're within 5-10 feet, yeah, you're all seeing this.
Can I make a check to figure out how they died? Well, what killed them more precisely?
Quick look at him. Your best guess is either the giant puncture wound through his heart that appears to be spear-like in indentation, or the giant slit across his throat that seems like a blade had been drawn across it.
But not like bludgeoned and stabbed by twigs.
No, this is very, very precise blade work.
Okay. And I poke him, not deeply. Or I'll just use the tip of my boot to kind of nudge it a little bit, the body a bit, to see if it's real.
It is definitely real.
Well, shit. There's an assassin out here.
Jennifer?
Is Jennifer an assassin? I look at Bear.
Theirs is oddly quiet and kind of jumpy, but he just shakes his head.
None of that is odd, but okay.
Is the body an old man?
It is not. It's actually a younger individual. Human, probably mid-20s. It has 2 daggers on its belt. It was male. Other than wearing a green tunic and green pants, you notice that it does carry a messenger bag. And there are 2 tattoos on its wrists.
Do we recognize?
I want to go through the messenger bag.
Go ahead and give me an investigation check, Arn. Versing, as you paw through the bag, you find some paper inside that clearly has written notes on it, but nothing that you're able to read. There's also a small coin purse which carries 150 gold pieces, as well as a circle wood piece that is engraved with a symbol on it that you do not recognize. Arn, looking over the tattoos, one is roughly the shape of what you would assume the talons of a bird to be. It's 3 claws that seem to be almost curled inwards as if they're grasping something. The other is 2 blades which are crossed over top of each other.
Does anybody recognize these tattoos?
I'll look at him.
Who all's looking at them?
Guess I'll have a peek at them.
Versing, are you focused
No.
entirely on the bag?
Yes.
Okay. Palis, it is tattoos that you recognize. You've seen individuals around Alonzia who have them. You don't recognize where they come from. Varis, you recognize these. Extremely recognize these. You know exactly who these belong to, organization-wise. Not an individual that you've ever seen before, but as you look closer, you notice Versing holding some paperwork, which is actually in a language you can decipher.
Woo! Can I tell what language it is?
It is a language that is used by your organization for passing notes, one which is kept to the trade that you hold closest to your heart.
Can I have those papers?
Don't give them to him until he tells us what's going on.
What do they mean? But
I haven't had a chance to look at them, so I can't tell you what it means.
I'll hand
you
him over.
recognize it?
Varys just nods.
Alright, Varys, are you gonna read them as Versing hands them over to you?
Yes.
Out loud or to yourself?
To myself.
Okay. As you read these to yourself, it is a set of orders given from, as best as you can tell, headquarters. It is written in a hand that you do recognize, one which is very familiar to the orders that you yourself were given. In short, it's a 3-page long direction to head to the Empire of Aselios and hunt down something called the Gothius Tree, which holds a crystal ball that the rogue Talons have been searching for. The note details that the individual or group who brings this crystal ball back to Altair bin Ladia is to receive 815 gold pieces as a reward, and that the crystal ball should be delivered to Altair in the city of Tyrius.
Okay.
I'm basically standing right on top of Varis. What do they say? Enough secrets. We're all in this together.
Nothing that relates to us.
What do they say?
There's his glares.
Palus glares back. You're not gonna Batman this shit.
Varis, as you are having your stare down with Palus, you see Gamely sneaking around behind you.
Okay. If he makes a grab for me, I'm gonna use Shocking Grasp.
Go ahead and make a dexterity save.
Uh, 11.
You see a flash of movement from behind you just at the very edge of your peripheral vision, and there's a moment where you are sure that you managed to dodge out of the way. And then you realize that Gamely is still standing in place, arm raised as if he had just thrown something, and you suddenly realize a small prick in the back of your neck. Go ahead and make a Constitution save.
Give me my best roll. That's a 9.
There is a moment where you feel your muscles tense up and suddenly lock tight. And you...
Do I see this?
You do. You, in fact, saw the dart that Gamely threw. A very, very tiny one.
I immediately rush him and knock him to the ground.
Okay, as you do so, you do watch as Varis locks up in place, still standing, but not moving. Gamely goes to the ground without any resistance, his hands immediately going up so that they're visible.
I'm gonna remove the dart from Varys's.
We work as a team. We don't attack each other.
Oh, aye. Don't worry, he'll be fine. It's nothing but a small...
You do that
muscle.
again. You do that again and you'll be tied to one of these trees until we're done with this.
Well, considering that he's not telling you something, I figured you'd want the truth from him.
Well, he's not going to tell the truth if he can't move. If he can't speak.
He can still speak. Worry not about that. It's just his legs and arms that won't move.
Yeah.
Do you have any more of those?
I'm just gonna throw... At Gamely, I'm just gonna throw a undercommon curse at him.
He doesn't seem to recognize it.
That's the point.
I start just manhandling his wares and looking for more of these darts.
Okay, he gives no resistance, but as you pull through, you do find 3 more darts, as well as the 2 axes on him. There's some gold pieces that are clearly in his possession. Other than that, he doesn't seem to own much.
I leave him with the rest and I take the darts and hand them to Lord Von Gallen.
Okay. I'll hold on to him.
Gamely will look over at you and say, I wouldn't touch the points on those if I were you.
I would keep your mouth shut for the time being.
Alright.
Arn, is Varys okay?
I'm just gonna prod Varys.
I don't know what the thing wearing off. I don't know how long this lasts.
You give Varys a little poke, and his flesh is soft. It doesn't feel off. Other than the fact that he doesn't seem to be able to move his arms and legs, he seems normal. He's breathing. His eyes are moving. He can still speak.
Very twitchily, yeah.
Look, I don't think he's happy, but he's okay, and we might as well take advantage of this. Start talking, Varis. What language is this letter written in?
He's gonna keep quiet about that.
I tickle that.
Varis, go ahead and make a Constitution save.
Yeah.
You are overtaken by laughter as Arn tickles you. Unable to move, you can do nothing to defend yourself.
I'm so not gonna spill.
Oh, yes, you are. I'm just going to keep tickling Varis until he either tells us what's going on or he wets himself.
Varis, go ahead and make another Constitution save.
Another 9.
You manage to hold yourself together so that you don't wet yourself, but your arms and legs don't seem to be getting any less numb.
Oh, joy.
This is really fun. Give us something, Varis.
That man over there is after the giant tree.
Which man?
The dead one.
He's after the giant tree.
Yes.
How do you know?
It's a letter.
Uh-huh. What about the letter? How do you know that this is that tree?
I recognize the name of the tree.
Which is...
Well, if I need help pronunciation.
The Gulthius tree.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure we heard before.
Yeah. Why is this tree significant?
There's something valuable within the tree.
And does this have anything to do with Jennifer?
Hell no.
Well, then why can't you tell us about it?
I don't trust the people I work with, so I don't want to entrust you with that knowledge.
I just look sideways at Payless.
In Elvish, I'm just gonna say keep your friends close, but your enemies closer.
We're pretty much all Elvish.
That's why I said it.
Yeah, just about everyone here understood that.
Does this have to do with Ben Ladia? Ben Ladia? I'll say that in Elvish as well.
That's the location on the letter, right?
That is actually the person.
I'm trying to rack my brain. What's that?
The letter specifically mentions Altar bin Ladia, who is the contact that you're supposed to meet after retrieving the crystal ball.
Okay. Yes.
Does it have to do with your... with Jennifer?
No.
Is it dangerous to us?
Yes.
The tree is dangerous?
Who this man worked for is very dangerous.
And who did he work for?
Just silent.
I try and giant. Rockno Dorda. No one speaks giant. Okay.
I can actually answer that one.
Raised eyebrow, slow head turn.
I mean, assuming I'm willing to speak now.
Go ahead.
Speak.
Well, this here dead fella used to work for the Rogue Talons.
Uh-huh.
The robed talons?
The rogue, like going off on your own. Except they're a little bit less about the lone part, more about the sneaky, steely, stabby part.
What do you know about them?
Not a huge ton, I must admit. I worked with them once or twice. Trust them about as far as you can find them, as far as I'm concerned.
Insight check.
Go ahead and roll it. He is telling nothing but the truth.
Varis, do you know who these rogue talons are?
Varys doesn't verbally answer that, but there is a reaction when you guys talk about them. Especially when Gamely was talking about it.
After the last week that we've had, you do not trust us?
I trust you. I don't trust them.
Do you think Gamely is one of them?
Oi, I take that as an insult.
No.
I look at Lord Von Gallen and Arn. Does that suffice?
Well, I just want to know, if we're looking for Jennifer, why are we heading towards the Gulf?
We have to destroy it. That's why.
Alright.
It destroyed Alonzio.
Did it? Do we know that?
If it spawned the creatures that have attacked my family and attacked Alonzia, then it will pay and be judged.
I nod at that.
Right, so should we let your friend free, or do we want to just continue this interrogation, as much fun as it's been?
Tickle him some more.
Oh, I like that idea.
Okay. Roll for tickling.
Varis, go ahead and make a Constitution save.
I had a feeling you were gonna say that. 13?
Arn, I'm gonna have you go ahead and make a strength check. Varis, knowing it's coming, you are able to brace yourself and completely resist the tickling effect which you have been tortured with for the past 5 minutes. After a few moments, Arn, you give up in vain as you realize that it's not working this time.
Alright.
Right, so, what you're gonna want to do is, Mr. Lordy there, you see the 3 darts you have in your hand. There's the blue one, the red one, and the yellow one. You want to stab him with the yellow one. Make sure not to stab him with the red or the blue.
Insight check. Hold on, Lord Von Galen.
Go ahead and roll insight.
Four.
You have never met someone so honest.
Wow.
I stab him with the pointiest end of the yellow one.
Alright. And Varis, as you feel the blade prick your body, you suddenly feel your arms and legs release. Whatever was holding you once now gone.
Finally!
Alright, so, are those 2-foot-tall humanoid things still moving around?
Go ahead and roll a perception check. And as you do that, Gamely kind of holds his hand out towards you.
I hand him the darts back. And 14.
Alright, as he tucks them away, you realize that the humanoid creatures have disappeared from sight.
They don't like tickling either.
Yeah, and they're afraid of the tickles.
They knew that it was coming to them.
But with, like, knives and stuff.
I yell out to the forest, I will tickle anyone who gets in my way. And I glare at Gamely.
Who at this point is not looking at you, but ahead down the path.
I can't tell because of the map if there's like 2 paths or there one.
There is one that heads up into the left of you, but you can tell from this position that it's basically a dead end. It's essentially just a pile of logs.
I'll keep my eyes and ears open and just move forward.
Okay, and as you come up, you can see to your left one path which seems to lead to a more sparse area, and to your right another path that leads into the much denser part of the woods where you can see the trees coming closer together.
I guess dense. I'm not sure if we're going towards the tree.
Yes.
Can we-
Yes, we're going towards the tree.
Yeah, can we still see the big...
At this point, no. It's nearly impossible to see beyond the foliage above you, and with the denseness of the forest itself, anything beyond 50 to 100 feet is just tree line.
And you said the dense
Okay.
area to our left?
To the right. The more sparse where it begins to open up again is to the left.
Okay, I'm gonna try to climb a tree real quick.
Go ahead and make an athletics or acrobatics check.
In your armor?
I'm real strong.
Palis actually pulls the tree down to his level.
Yeah, real strong.
Alright. As you begin climbing the tree, you find handhold and handholds. Sometimes just pieces of bark that have given way that provide you a opening to hold on to. You're about halfway up before you realize that this is a really tall fucking tree. But eventually you reach the top, and looking down, you see the ground some 75 feet below you. You, from this vantage point, can see the Gulthias tree, or what you assume to be the Gulthias tree, in the distance. It does appear to be down to your right, the more dense path that you were taking. However, from this distance, you look like you're about a quarter of a day away.
Yeah, it is. Okay, I'll climb back down and... I don't know if that's going to be a check, too.
Yes, it is. Go ahead and give me a athletics or acrobatics check. You begin your descent, and at first you make the way with limited worry. It's essentially the same thing you did, except backwards. About a quarter of the way down, you suddenly lose your grip, and for a frightening second, you fall about 15 feet before you manage to grab onto a branch and save yourself. Thankfully, not receiving any major injuries other than probably what is going to be a very sore arm in the morning. You once again carry on, taking a little bit more time this time, and eventually join your friends on the ground once more.
You are such a forgiving DM.
You're lucky I rolled lower than you.
Yeah, okay, so yeah. Once I get down there, a little shaken, I'll say, yeah, it's the path on the right. We're only a few hours out.
Alright. As you guys continue through the forest, you notice the trees slowly begin to come closer and closer together until you're no longer able to walk side by side, and as the daylight slowly disappears and darkness begins to once more take over, this time not the darkness of the foliage, but the darkness of the day itself, you are finding yourselves having to, for those of you in the heavier armor, slide sideways to get through the areas. No longer able to fit walking normally. It's becoming a very, very tight area, and for those of you that suffer from claustrophobia, you can feel yourselves starting to become anxious. Eventually, Varis, as you lead the way, you see a sudden opening in the trees where the forest simply ends and there is an open space before you.
We're right there with him, yeah?
You guys are a little bit behind, and due to the denseness of the trees, it's a little bit hard to see where he's heading. But as you pop one by one out, you see this small clearing-like area, and it's kind of a surprise because most of the area is so dense, but this is open enough that you can get out side by side and see the forest before you, where it once more goes into a denseness. However, alongside the 7,500 foot tall trees, you also see two smaller trees, these ones no more than 10, 15 feet in height. They seem to be swaying as if there was a breeze moving them, but the air around you is completely silent.
This place looks weird. Are we gonna go ahead?
Yeah, I'm gonna hang back and just watch.
Yeah. We doing here? Hold on, Varis. I think I'll lead Gamely and Paleli, flank me, Varys, Arn, and Lord Von Galen. You stay back and keep your range.
Okay.
As you
I'm gonna-
approach, there is suddenly a voice which, more in your mind than anything, but it seems to move with the swaying of the trees. You hear this voice, rustling through the leaves of the eldest tree, the branches of the youngest sapling. It echoes the calls of those who have come and gone, voices spoken without a lip broken. It is visible in the coldest of nights, yet lost as the light rises. It violently tears away that life that is given, bearing ill to none. Speak what it is and pass freely. 3 wrong guesses, and your life shall be given.
Can we have that
I
written
just
down
gotta say,
in,
that's some good writing right
written?
there, dude.
Can we have a written version of that?
We can. I'll pop that into the chat there for you. Whoops.
That is some damn fine writing.
We're all watching the chat.
Sorry, I popped into Roll20's chat. I just realized that it's only recording Roll20, so I figured I'd let everyone see it.
So, I'm gonna say, yeah, I always failed a riddle class I copied off of Beaver.
As you say this out loud, there is a voice that echoes through your head. And so your first guess is given. A fail it is. 2 more remain.
I mouthed shit like 20 times.
You watch as the trees suddenly begin bending towards you.
Is it wind?
And just as Palus, you see the first branch, not but an inch from your face, they suddenly snap back with Versing's spoken word. You hear the voices once more. A riddle past, entrance given. Go forth beyond and see what is awaiting.
I was hoping for that to rhyme.
The trees seem to snap into place, no longer moving, and you notice that between them a small path seems to have appeared, leading further inwards.
Let's go.
As you guys eventually move forward, you spend the next couple hours kind of traversing this terrain. The tree is becoming dense and then opening up a little bit and then becoming dense again, and eventually you find yourselves entering an area where the trees almost seem to bend inwards, leaning in the direction you're going, and you notice that in the distance they all seem to lean in such a way that they're all pointed directly in the same direction that you're heading. The further out they go, the more they seem to lean towards a center, not only inwards but sideways as necessary. You do notice that ahead of you there seems to be a large opening where the trees seem to suddenly stop.
Are we here? What can you see, Varis?
Do I see anything?
As you head deeper into the clearing, you suddenly notice although it was difficult to spot as you entered simply due to the sudden transition, you see this large, tall tree, probably about 125 feet tall, which stands in the center of this clearing by itself. It has leaves that are red with a trunk that is more orange. It seems to sway in a wind that does not exist, and littered across the entirety of this area you see bodies which, although they seem to be older in life, have not yet decayed, and there is everything from humans to elves to tieflings to halflings, every race that you can think to find. You lose count after the first 150, 175 individuals. Oddly enough, most seem to be entwined in some sort of root or branch which envelops the body. And as you walk closer, Varis, you see standing before this tree an individual. For the rest of you, it looks almost identical to Varis himself. Twin-like, in a sense. It appears to be focused on the tree itself, and standing before this body is another individual, a human who looks deceased for quite some time. You can see where the skin has sagged, where the arms drape. It appears to be held up by one of the roots themselves, and you can see the mouth moving, but no voice coming. And suddenly, as if noticing you for the first time, this individual who looks so much like your party member turns. And for you, Varis, you recognize Javir immediately. And, confusing to you, he seems more concerned by your presence than anything else. Not happy to see you, but fearful, as if something's wrong. And in a moment, you watch as the roots jump out, grabbing Javier by arms, legs, and neck. And there is a moment's scream before you watch as Javir's body is ripped apart piece by piece with a spattering and spray of blood. There is nothing left before you aside from the dripping mist that was once your brother. And that is where we're going to call it for tonight.
Oh.
That is harsh, dude.
I love you and hate you at the same time.
On that note, I want to say thank you to you guys once more for a great session tonight. We are going to stop the recording here, but I look forward to next week, and we'll talk for a few minutes after this recording. Thank you once again.